continue with the section on Parshat Lech Lecha, Bereshit Yud Genesis 12, Pasuk Kaf, the 20th sentence. So just to remind ourselves where we are, Pharaoh has found out that Sarai is in fact Avram's wife, and has decided that at the threat of punishment from God, that he was going to send Avram away, and he was going to be very careful how he was doing this, so as to remove the punishment from himself, because he was an unwitting participant in this story, although he in fact created the milieu in which it could have happened. Pharaoh takes no responsibility for it. And we continue on by Yitzav, and he ordered with a mercha. This is going to lightly be connected to what's gone before, which we just described, but mostly move forward into what's going to go afterwards. In retaliation, so Pharaoh feels that he's been wronged, so in retaliation, Pharaoh has charged his reliable militia, and he ordered them to supervise the immediate departure of Avram and Sarai from Egypt, as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So he's asking them to go out, to go forward, and he feels that the best way to get them out is to have them escorted out. So this lightly mirrors the terminology that's used when the people of Israel leave Egypt after slavery. Bishalach paro et ha'am, he sends them out. So again, we have the idea of, and some of the Mepharshim in fact say, that they escorted them to the border and made sure that they left. Because at that point they had the plague of the firstborn, and they were worried that if they stayed there, the next plague would come. So again, we have the concept of the people of Israel being let out, and the concept of Maseh Avot Siman Lebanim. What happens to the forefathers is going to be what's eventually going to happen to the people of Israel afterwards. Alav, over him, with the protective tavir, with the dot inside the mercha. Even before the expulsion from the country, they were to have maintained vigilance on Avram, on his movements, and keeping over him a watchful eye, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So he is being observed, and I'm sorry, I didn't read fast enough. One of the Mepharshim say that most people who got favors in Egypt, by the time they got to the border, they were robbed of most of what they were given. So this again is sort of a miraculous type of protection that Avram and Sarai get, that Pharaoh has this reason to watch over him to make sure that he leaves, so that the plague that has befallen Pharaoh and his household goes away from him, and that also allows Avram and Sarai to maintain both the status that they've gained and the wealth that they've gained. Paro with the tipcha, so this is backwards looking. Pharaoh himself was personally involved in Avram's departure, because not only had Avram made the monarch suffer physical pain and discomfort, but he had also provoked embarrassment to the king, along with a moral defeat, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So we look at this, and again we've tried also to be careful about, when we see Paro's name especially, to see whether he gets a dot in his name or not.
First thing
So this is because Alav, the Tavir, has the pause after it.
Mm-hmm.
The Vav at the end of Alav does not influence the pay for Paro. So normally the Vav would take away the dot, but here his dot has been maintained. Why? Because he is in command of the situation. He is Paro at a point of strength, even if he is doing this out of embarrassment, doing this out of having been one-upped by God, he's still having command of the situation. So here we might have thought that this would be him in his weakness because of what we've just read in the translation. But in fact, his command is still there, so he does maintain his God. So I thought we would visit that again. And we pause after Paro's name, because the Tipra has an implied small pause after it. Anashim, men, with the stabilizing etnachta. However, knowing Avram's versatility and source of support, Pharaoh had chosen most reliable men to complete the task, as stressed by the stabilizing shape of the related reading mark. So sometimes when we see, or especially when we see the word men, it quite often implies not just males, but men of importance. So he seems to sort of send the royal honor guard with him. So that's why they have this source of stability, because they're just respected by, and nobody would dare to challenge them. Vayishalchu, with again the mercha, so lightly connected to what's come from before, but again mostly leading out. And I think we can see from what we said about the Vayitzav, he's showing them the direction to go out, and here again we're showing the direction to go out. So even before we can anticipate that, according to the strict orders of Pharaoh, the men in charge urged Avram to leave without delay, not permitting any excuse for postponement, even though there might be technical reasons for delay, and they sent him out of the country under strict supervision, as denoted by the shape of the reading mark. So again, they're leading him that direction out of the country, and they are not allowing Avram to stay and to try and make the situation better when he's there or anything like that. So they just hurry him out. Oto, with him, with again the sheltered Tavir. However, the servicemen allowed Avram to take along with him all his belongings, as suggested by the shape of the related reading mark. So him in a sheltered fashion means that everything that he had just acquired, he still had time to, so they didn't hurry him out and say, get out. It's not like you're fired from a tech company, they show you the door, and the stuff from your desk doesn't make it with you. This was, he had time to pack, he had time to put everything on, but other than that, they really didn't let him delay. So they didn't do anything to dishonor him or take something away from him, and yet they did escort him with as much haste as they could, but not in a disrespectful way. V'etishto, and with his wife, with the tipcha. So this is going to focus us backwards and close the phrase. They were instructed not to use any violence under any circumstances, but deal with him and his wife kindly, as expressed by the reverse direction of the reading mark. This is looking back, looking over him. And we have a side note, Oto v'et, with him and with, indicates that Oto has a meaning of with, v'et, with, v'et. Otherwise, it would have said vayishalchuhu. So the question is, why do we have a separate word? Why doesn't it say vayishalchuhu v'etishto? They sent him out and his wife. So oto is an extra word. So oto has to mean with him, not just him. So again, anytime you have an extra word in Tanakh, you have to see the meaning of it and why it's included. V'et kol asher lo, and with all that for him, with again the stabilizing sof pasuk. Neither should any annoyance be caused to people associated with Avram, nor to the livestock, and with all that for him, for his use and convenience. So again, Avram's possessions were not touched, were not stolen or in any way diminished in his leaving. So he was allowed to take everything. Nobody stole from him. Nobody bothered him on his way out. And again, that is the source of stability. What he had gained, he doesn't lose anything of it at all. And we have a remark: this paragraph portraying the drama of Avram in Egypt is a prodrome and a paraphrase of all phases of the Egyptian slaveries by the tribes. Even the forced departure of Avram, along with his wealth, is duplicated on a larger scale. Biyad chazaka yishalchem, biyad chazaka yigarshem me'aretzo. With a mighty hand he will send them out, and with a mighty hand he will chase them from his land. Along with bizat Mitzrayim, the taking of spoils from Egypt, the lo yachlu litmameh, and they weren't able to wait around. Leil shimurim, it was a guarded night, and bizat yam, and the plunder that the people of Israel managed to take on the surface of the Red Sea. So again, we see elements of all of those things appearing in this story. So again, Maseh Avot Siman Banim, and we have to draw those parallels. So as we read through it with the pauses exaggerated, we'll see that the Tfir after Alav allows Paro's name to maintain its dot, and Paro separates himself out from the Anashim. Paro is the master in command, and the Anashim are those fulfilling the task. Vayishalchu oto, and they sent him out, separated out from the Etishto and with the rest of his party, and going down again a level of importance, Viet Kol Asher Lo, and all of the possessions that he took. Vayitzav alav Paro Anashim Vayishalchu oto Viet Ishto Viet Kol Asher Lo. And we continue on the next page, page 26. Vaya'al, and he came back with a Tlishak Tana. So this is a note that always goes on the last letter of the word, and it tells us that the story is going to go forward from here. It's always a forward-looking note, and this is a misharet. This is a note that is connected to the next word. It is not separated as its Tlishak Gdolah would be. Avram was in, and he came up. Number one, Avram was in the country of the lowest morals and spirit. By Yerdu Mitzrayim, they had to go down to go to Egypt, and he came up again to regain the level of his soul, as indicated by the shape and placement of the reading mark. Vayal mi Mitzrayim. So he is going up. This is a note that is on top of the word, and it's leading forward into where Avram is going to continue on his spiritual journey. Avram, with a kadma, with a...
You missed the alternate.
I'm sorry, we have yet another translation, because Avram had participated in the hardships of Egypt in advance of the indignation of his children, and he came up to be a participant in the great event of receiving the Torah. So, we have the people of Israel getting a level of spiritual advancement once they leave Egypt, and similarly Avram is going to get a level of spiritual advancement once he leaves Egypt. Avram, with the Kadma. So this note pushes forwards and elevates the word. Following past experiences, Avram appreciated his position even more. His spirit, like his convictions, became even stronger, as shown by the high directional reading mark. So this one is going to move us forward, and it's going to elevate the name, and Mitzrayim, closing the phrase with the Azla from Egypt. This cheering sensation of Avram became positively substantiated by his observations, which he brought from Egypt where he came in empirical contact with many people from various spheres, as stressed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So the question, so first of all, why is he pluralizing the word? Because the word Mitzrayim is a plural word. Mimetzar from a narrow place, and Mitzrayim from the narrows of the place. The place of narrows. The place of narrows. So again, it's a pluralized word. That's what the ending Yud Mem means. It's a pluralized word. So that's why he translates it as Egypt's. And the question is, how do we sort of derive this sense of Avram meeting with a lot of people when he's there? And again, that might be just from the pluralization of the word Mitzrayim, and we might be defining it as that. It also is the concept of Avram is elevated up above everyone who he's met there. So that's the only things that I could think that might correspond to this concept of him being in contact with many people and various levels of society when he's in Egypt. Certainly he meets the border guards and they take him to the officers who take him to Pharaoh's palace. So we, through the story empirically, we know that happened, but I'm not sure where it fits itself into this word quite. Who, which in English is translated as he, and this is the Tlisha Gdolah. So remember, the Tlisha Ktana, the one we started with, is at the end of the word. This one is always at the beginning of the word, and it focuses us backwards. So it's going to move backwards, and it's going to pause after. Because Avram's journey to Egypt was in a downward direction, his return therefore was automatic ascendancy. Therefore, he also forecasted the later sequence of slavery, which he initiated, is denoted by the shape and placement of the reading mark. So, again, Avram is attaching himself to the concept of having been in Egypt and having arisen to go out of there to a higher level. And we have a side note: despite the splendor of Egypt which Avram experienced, he remained unaffected. The, quote, test of wealth did not change his personality. As the Zohar says, in contrast to Adam and Noah, who did change, Avram retained a constant level. Why did I not find that Zohar? I want to pause it for a second.